Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to look at how to use the cosine rule to find the missing side length of a triangle. The first thing you want to note is the cosine rule can only be used for triangles that do not have a right angle, like this one, where a right angle is an angle that has a corner that is 90 degrees, which is represented by a square like this. So we only use the cosine rule for non-right angle triangles. The other thing that has to be present for you to use the cosine rule to find the missing length of a triangle is this arrangement of values. You have to have one angle around two side lengths. So we have side length 1 here, side length 2 here, and in the middle we have this angle. And you can remember this as this angle is cozy between these two side lengths, so we use the cosine rule. And the side length we're trying to find is directly across from this angle. So just make sure you have your angle in between two side lengths, and that is directly across from the side length that you are trying to find. If that is present, we are all good to use the cosine rule. So let's use the cosine rule to find this side length of this triangle. So we have our cosine rule here. We have a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times cos a. And this is the formula for the cosine rule that we are going to use to find this missing length here. Now, firstly, we want to label this triangle with a, b, and c. We're going to label a as the missing length that we are trying to find. So in this case, a is this length here, and that is what we're trying to find. So a is always what you're trying to find. That's why it's the subject of this equation. Then we can simply label b and c as the other sides. And finally, big A. So we have little a in this formula, which is here, but we also have a big A. The big A is going to be directly across from the little a, and it's going to represent our angle. So in this case, big A is 48. Once you have these values, it's simply a matter of substituting them into this formula and solving. And that will give us a squared is equal to, so we have b squared, where b is this side length here, which is 20, so we have 20 squared, plus c squared, which is 17, minus 2 times b, which is 20, times c, which is 17. And then that is multiplied by cos big A, where big A is 48 degrees. So now we have our whole equation here, and we can start to solve this. So we get a squared is equal to 20 squared, which is 400, plus 17 squared, which is 289, minus 2 times 20, which is 40, times 17, which is 680. And that's multiplied by cos 48. Now, before we go any further, a very common mistake to note is this multiplication sign here, which means that we're going to want to do this part of the equation before we add these all together, as multiplication must be done before any addition and subtraction in an equation according to the order of operations. So make sure you don't just solve this left to right going, that is 689 minus 680, which is 9 times cos 48. That would be a very common mistake. You have to make sure you do this part here first, as it's a multiplication sign. So if we do that, we'll get 400 plus 289, which is 689, minus, and now we're going to do this part here. So remember keeping them separate. And if you think you may forget that, it may help to put brackets in this formula up here. So you do this part and this part separately before you subtract one from the other. So we have 680 times cos 48, and if you type that into your calculator, you're going to get 455. And now we simply do this first part of the equation minus the second. So 689 minus 455 is 234. However, we are not quite done because this is a squared equals 234 and we want a, not a squared, just a. So to get a by itself, take the square root of both sides, as the square root and the squared will cancel out to leave us with just a is equal to square root of 234. And if you want that as a decimal, type into your calculator the square root of 234, and to two decimal places that is 15.30, or just 15.3, meaning that this missing side length here, or A, is 15.3 centimeters. And that is how you use the cosine rule to find a missing side length. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing. See you next time.